Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing, and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, let me preface my comments by saying my deepest heartfelt concern and sympathies go out to Jimmy Carter's family. Right? Carter has announced that he has cancer. Now understand, politically, I'm a libertarian, but I have to tell you, one of the most powerful political memories that I have in my life was Carter's inauguration when he walked down Pennsylvania Avenue. It was an unusual move. A lot of new presidents ride in limos, etc. Carter wanted to be a people's president. It was very important because the country was coming out of Nixon's resignation. Keep in mind, we had the bicentennial, and we had a president at that time, Gerald Ford, who had not been elected by the public, right? And here you have Jimmy Carter winning the election, a president from the South, which was a bit controversial, right? And he reached out immediately to the public. Whatever you thought of his presidency, that was a powerful moment. He certainly has been a statesman and a humanitarian since leaving office. My thoughts and prayers are with Jimmy Carter's family. I consider Carter to be a great public figure. Right? Speaking of public figures, I was really struck, really impressed by Roy Jones meeting with Putin, the leader of Russia, right? Putin, as it turns out, is an avid boxing fan, as was another statesman, Nelson Mandela, right? You know what? This is a brilliant move by Roy Jones. I think it's a great move all around. It's always good, in my opinion, to have a statesman who is into sports, who knows boxing, like Putin does, right? It's clear from the YouTube video, and it's on YouTube, of the two men getting together, that Putin knows who Roy Jones is, right? Obviously, Roy Jones knows who Putin is, since he's a big-time world leader, right? Let me say, too, that Jones, in the piece, actually asked for a Russian passport because he wants to do business in Russia. Let me point out that Russia, of course, has several big-time boxers on the world stage, right? Ranked contenders, guys in the public light. Denis Lebedev, Alexander Povetkin, Arthur Beterbiev, Alexander Ustinov, just to name some of the guys out of Russia. I thought it was a big moment when Povetkin fought Vladimir Klitschko, who's from the Ukraine, in Russia, right? Boxing, unlike other sports, is global, right? And I hope that the sport recognizes and embraces the diversity. I hope that the biggest boxing events are put all over the globe. In the 70s, we had the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire. We had the Thriller in Manila. People may recall Mike Tyson lost his title in Japan. Let's hope that big fights involving big-time fighters, right, big-time moments of the sport happen in places like Russia and other places as well. I applaud both men, Roy Jones and Putin, for meeting together on camera to discuss the sport of boxing and business opportunities. I thought that was great. I hope you give that video a look. Right now, let's talk about a fascinating fight coming up. It's Cornelius Bundridge, right? This guy fascinates me. He's a champion. He's a very avoided fighter for a reason. It's that straight right hand, right? And he's fighting a young guy, Jermall Charlo. You have a guy in his 40s with the belt fighting a guy in his 120s. Big time matchup for the title at 154 pounds. Let's talk styles, right? Bundridge is a Vladimir Klitschko, Saul Alvarez clone without the lethal springing left hook. What that means to me is that he's very structured in his offense, right? He has a pretty good jab. Don't sleep on the jab. But his real calling card is a very lethal, very effective, straight right hand that comes right down Main Street that hits guys when they don't expect it. Now, he's been around the block. Understand, I know Bundridge comes across as a happy-go-lucky type guy. The truth of the matter is that he's hard-nosed. Don't fall for the poker face persona or the, class clown persona. This guy is actually lethal, right? He fought Ishii Smith. Tough fight. He lost that one. He fought Joel Julio, right? Underrated tough fighter a few years ago. He lost that one. He fought very slick southpaw Corey Spinks. He won that fight. He recently fought very difficult matchup, very fluid inside Carlos Molina, and he won that fight. Now, he's offensively blessed. He's a guy who brings a high tempo with him, but he's a bit flat-footed. But there's a way to get to him. What I'm going to say is my point of view. It might be controversial to many, right? But there's a way to get to him. It's not the first punch. It's the second or third punch of the combination. You're going to notice that because Bundridge is very aggressive, and because he's high volume, and because he's a bit flat-footed, he is defensively limited. Right? He doesn't bend at the waist. He uses his legs for defense. Right? He also doesn't fight enough to really hone his skills. He usually fights once a year. Last year, I'll concede he fought twice. Right? Understand, though, that what you see is what you get. Big time offense. But if you can find a way to get up on him and throw a combination, you're going to find that after he rolls with the first punch or the second punch, he tends to get hit later on in your combination. He's open to get hit. He's not that good at clinching you. He's not that good at moving away. Now, Charlo is half a foot taller. There's going to be a height dynamic here. Both men have roughly the same reach. So it's interesting. The tall guy can't really just bend back and use length. Right? Charlo, though, is blessed with spectacular leverage. Right? Punchers are born, they're not made. This guy's a born puncher. Somehow he doesn't have to lean into his shots. Let me also point out, too, that his punches tend to be short. Not a lot of wind-up. He's able to just hit you very, very up close. Right? He's a pretty good athlete. Now, in the Boxing Voice video of Abel Sanchez, and it's intriguing, talks about David Lemieux's punching power. And he says, Lemieux has thudding power, which isn't as great, in his opinion, as snapping power, which is what he believes Golovkin throws with. Right? The punches snap. Opponents go down they don't get up, right? If they get up, they're badly hurt, right? Let me say this about Charlo. If you look at his videos, his opponents, the guys who he hurts, are absolutely stunned at his power. Part of it is that the guy hits hard. There's no question about that. Right? Part of it is that the guy is tall and lanky. Right? He's a 6-footer fighting at 154. Right? Because there's no wind-up to his punch, I'm sure guys see that 99-mile-an-hour fastball and they say, my God, how is the guy getting that level of leverage without the big wind-up? It's kind of like Mariano Rivera. If you were to take him from baseball and put him in boxing, right, that easy wind-up or non-wind-up fools a lot of guys, right? But more importantly, when guys hit the canvas, and I'm talking about even tough guys, Antoine Smith, right? I believe I have the video up in my favorites, right? They're badly hurt. I'm talking about guys getting off the canvas, their balance is gone. Right? This guy is throwing fastballs when you don't expect it. He's a devastating puncher. Right? I believe Jermall Charlo is an underrated puncher. Let me say this too. Charlo trains under one of the best trainers in the sport of boxing, Ronnie Shields. Now, Ronnie Shields is that rare trainer who is far better than advertised. Right? Shields was one of the guys in the corner the night Pernell Whitaker got robbed in San Antonio against Julio Cesar Chavez. Right? That's a brilliant game plan. That was A+ work by a fighter's corner. You want another example? It was Ronnie Shields, who was in the corner of Brian Vera the night, let's face it, he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Right? I thought Vera had a spectacular game plan. I thought he was busy, way too busy for an out-of-shape Chavez Jr. Right? I thought he clearly won that fight. The judges did not. Understand, when you see a guy like Ronnie Shields in his corner, right, in a fighter's corner, you know that that fighter is going to come in the ring with a game plan, right? The fighter can be adaptive reactive. The fighter can see some things in the ring, right? You always go with your best information. There's no information quite like actually seeing a guy the night of the fight, what he's doing in the fight. The fighter will make adjustments. But understand, with a guy like Ronnie Shields, the fighter shows up in the ring with a brilliant game plan. Right? Now, in my opinion, Charlo has to come in the ring very cognizant of the fact that he's fighting a much shorter fighter who's going to throw a brutal long right hand. It's on par with Klitschko and Canelo's straight right hand. Right? And that Charlo, even though Charlo is an equally brutal puncher, has the fresher legs, needs to use movement, lateral movement, and he can move. Right? Even though Charlo's a bit flat-footed himself, he's not that much up on his toes. But understand, Charlo can move to create openings. When he creates openings, he can't pot shot all night. If he can just step in a little bit and throw a combination, he needs to expect the first 2 punches to miss, right? Or to be blocked, or to have Bundridge ready for them. Right? But what he needs to keep doing is keep throwing the punch. I think what he's going to find is he can hit Bundridge flush. The bet I'm recommending here is a changing of the guard. It's to take the young fighter over the old fighter. I believe Jermall Charlo takes Bundridge's title. But you need to hedge the play, right? Whenever you have a young guy who's accustomed to hunting, when you have a young hunter against a guy who has been around the block, who has the belt and who has a punch, who has also gone the distance in some big fights, right? Who has found a way to land big shots on even elusive guys like Corey Spinks. In my opinion, you have to hedge Charlo to win the fight with Bundridge by KO. Right? Let me say this. You know, in the ring, not outside the ring, but in the ring, I'm a big fan of Carlos Molina, who Bundridge beat to get the title. Right? But Molina likes to operate from inside the pocket. That's where Bundridge is really hard to deal with. Right? Charlo, as big a puncher as he is going to have to move, rotate the pocket, and be on the outskirts of the pocket. Right? If he can just guard against Bundridge's straight right hand, there is a possibility he dominates this fight. There is a possibility he gets a stoppage, like Joel Julio did years ago. I like Charlo. I think he's a bright light right now in boxing. I think you're going to have a changing of the guard in boxing. I think a lot of people are overlooking this young man. Understand, he trains with people like Erislandy Lara. He has a world-class corner behind him. He's unbeaten, and I'm telling you, when you're looking at a boxing match, judge the severity of the punches, not by the fighter's wind-up, not how hard it looks like the guy's throwing the punch. Judge the guy's punching power by how hard the guy he hits falls down. There's a Showbox fight here online where he hits a guy on the temple with a very short, I think it's a left hand. And I'm telling you, the poor guy looks like Trevor Burbeck against Mike Tyson. Right? Don't be fooled by Charlo's physique. Understand, you've had some devastating punchers. Sandy Sadler, Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Alexis Arguello, who had thin bills. Right? I like Charlo here to win the fight, to take the title, hedged with Bundridge by stoppage. Let me hear from you. Right? Tell us your thoughts on this fight. Tell us your thoughts on the 154-pound division. If you want to tell us your thoughts on Ronnie Shields as a trainer, if you want to tell us, right, about how you rank Charlo in the big scheme of things, I hope you leave those comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.